Welcome to a Tuesday edition of Big Blue Kickoff Live. It's November 7th. Our show is presented by Cadillac, the official luxury vehicle of the New York Football Giants. Thanks so much for being with us. My name is Madelyn Burke alongside Howard Cross. You can find us on social media at Madelyn Burke, at Howard Cross 87. The phone number here is 201-939-4513. Is that mic just cut out? I don't know.
Did we lose it?
Are we losing it? Are we glitching over here? Maybe.
We're glitching.
Cannot confirm.
We're out. We're in.
It's very on brand right now. It's just, our heads are falling off. But you know what? You can find us on Twitter at #GiantsChat. And as a reminder, you can find the archive of this show and our entire podcast network on the Giants mobile app, podcast platforms everywhere, and on Giants.com/podcast.
Good job, Madelyn.
We powered through. That's what you got to do. In the face of adversity, you just got to keep moving forward.
I'm so impressed.
Thank you.
So impressed.
I'd like to curtsy. Hat tip. Howard, it's a pleasure being with you.
That's kind of the Raggedy Ann move, the curtsy, just so you know.
I feel like Raggedy Ann was definitely a curtsy kind of gal.
She was.
She was a curtsy gal in her little makeshift outfit. Not today, though. Not on my Raggedy Ann energy today.
She came out stunting today.
Today.
Check out the dress. She's stunting. So bring it. Just let somebody call me
Howard,
with this.
stunting is a habit. Get like me. Have you ever seen a Chevy with the butterfly doors? Anyway, welcome to the show. We're just... Joy is something that you can find in any corner of the world right now.
You have to find it.
Even in Cowboys week. The Giants are headed to Dallas, take on the Cowboys on Sunday. It's a formidable foe. They've got the second highest points per game in the league behind the Dolphins.
Okay.
And, of course, the big news yesterday, I know they talked about it on the show a little bit too, but Brian Daboll confirmed that Daniel Jones is out with a torn ACL. So it'll be Tommy DeVito and Matt Barkley in the quarterback room as Tyrod Taylor remains on IR as well. It's a tough task for a young rookie, undrafted free agent quarterback, and Matt Barkley, a quarterback who hasn't played an NFL game in 3 years, who's kind of working his way back from the practice squad, trying to, pick up the offense. Of course, he's got that familiarity with Brian Daboll and the Bills system, so it's not going to be too hard to translate, but tough news for this Giants team.
Well, it's kind of on brand for the season. We had a lot of injuries starting out. You start losing linemen. You lose almost every lineman on the offensive line. You lose your star running back for a while. Then he's like making his way back. You lose your quarterback. Then now you're playing with your star running back, your backup quarterback. Things look kind of promising, like you might get a little traction. The line is starting to play a little bit better. You bring a guy in off the couch. He's playing better, gives some energy to that offensive line. And you lose the quarterback again. And your backup's down. Your starter's down. You don't know if the starter's coming back. I'm assuming this season ending. I assume that
for Daniel Jones.
Yeah, for Daniel.
I would assume that, he's going to have surgery at some point.
So they're going to have Tyrod is after 4 weeks they'll be trying to bring him back, but we don't know how bad the injury really was and everything. But he was bad enough for him to go to the doctor right off the field. So I just think that it's going to be you got to play who you got to play.
Right.
You got a good schedule, got a tough schedule. I think it's good the offensive line's playing better. I think it's bad that I think I saw Evan Neal come out of the game with an ankle.
He did, yes.
So that's not good for not good for the line, not good for him, not good for the DeVito. So I think it's going to be a lot of them. They're going to figure out how to put a lot of pressure on the Dallas's front by just trying to run it at them and make it a muddy game and try to slow everything down to give DeVito a chance. And that's the only way to do it. Try to protect him with the run, which means that everybody's going to be super focused on Saquon. It's not like it's Saquon and Daniel where you got to check both sides because one guy goes one way, the other guy goes the other way. You got to make sure who has the ball. It's going to be like all eyes are going to be on Saquon. They're going to have to find out some pretty creative ways to get him loose and get him some matchups in the run game.
Absolutely. And, we saw it. There's offensive success when you get that run game going. Last week, he only had 16 carries, but he still ran for 90 yards. The week prior, they gave him the ball 36 times in the run game, and he, that was a career high for the amount of run. I think with the way that this Giants offense, offense in general in the NFL, if you got to run the dang ball. And leaning on Saquon, a player who is playing at a high level, who's an explosive playmaker. especially with a rookie quarterback. That's the key for this team.
I think he wants the ball too. So if he wants it, I think he should be able to get it.
Right. You got to think he's got. I mean, that's the thing too. You got to want the ball.
Well, I think with Waller being out, I think Saquon's going to be like the Swiss Army knife. He's going to have to do a lot of different things. I think Lil Robinson have to do some things. He's going to catch the ball, be more involved. I think that.
Did you call him Lil Robinson?
Yeah, Lil Robinson.
Wandale Robinson.
Lil Robinson. Don't call him Wandale. Don't call him Wandale, leave little man alone. I think you got also. I think Cager may have to do a little show here and pop into this offense and be that slash kind of Waller kind of guy to try to help out the offense a lot. I think that with the protection, because I think that Tommy is going to go back and look at that last week's tape and see that, hey, look, there was a little more protection than I thought. I was jumping and making nervous because I thought I had to get out of there, and there wasn't. There was a little more time than I thought. This week may not be as much time.
Sure.
But he'll be able to let the ball go a little sooner.
Yeah.
I think Hyatt and Slayton they really are able to get down the field and get open. And I don't think it's going to be more on anticipation letting the ball go. If he hits one of those early, or at least takes a couple of attempts at that and is able to get it out of his hands down the field, then Dallas will have to back up a little bit, and you'll be playing just against the front five instead of the front eight.
Well, and you mentioned getting the ball downfield. That was something that was a point of emphasis coming into this season. The reason that they kind of acquired a lot of the skill position players they did was to be able to open up the offense and push the ball down the field. Last week, we saw a few of those plays attempted. A couple of them when Daniel Jones was still in the game in that first quarter, trying to hit Jalen Hyatt. That first one, the timing they didn't have quite right, and Hyatt kind of already went out of bounds.
He jumped and turned out of bounds,
and then that second one, it was just the placement was a little far ahead. Later in the game, Tommy DeVito sent it down the field. That one ended up in an interception. You want to get the ball downfield, but what's the key? What stands out to you in why that hasn't been or wasn't successful last week?
It wasn't successful last week. Daniel had just gotten back, so he was trying to find his timing and his feels, kind of like there's swinging a golf club and hitting the ball. If you got to hit it 80 yards, you got to know what the weight feels like when you swing the club. It's a really weird thing because you do it all the time, but it doesn't feel the same. Your body's never the same 2 days in a row, so you're trying to hit the same shot 2 days in a row. You have to feel it. You have to feel it. So playing quarterback after being out for so long,
right?
You got a lot of energy, a lot of juice, a lot of power. So you're trying to, get that feel when you're, throwing balls in practice. You're probably hitting them right on the money.
Yeah.
You're probably dropping it in the bucket, like they say, and having fun with it. But when you get a little more of that energy and a little more of that excitement of the game, everything's flowing. You got to find a way to cut that faucet off so you can just still have that same kind of momentum, heart rate, and everything to let the ball go the same kind of way, even though he's being covered and grabbed all the way down the field.
Right.
So that's a big thing, and you can simulate it all you want, but when there's a crowd screaming and there are people falling at your feet and the people aren't going to just run by you like they do in practice, they're going to hit you. When you let it go, you let it go. So you might have a little more on it that time as opposed to being there week in and week out and knowing what it feels like.
And a lot of it too is that chemistry and that timing and understanding, knowing where your teammate is and how that, like you mentioned the golf analogy, knowing what that club does
what
and
it feels like.
what it feels like.
And I think the feel was there. I just think the feel in the game wasn't there. He hadn't been in the game in a few weeks, and everybody's like, well, he's a professional. But when you're sitting there watching and you're like, okay, I could have success. I've seen a little success. I've had some success with these guys. I want to do more, and you can't. Do things above and beyond. You got to let's make the plays that are available first.
Right.
Everybody on board. Let's be on board with making the plays that are available first, and then let's try to get above the numbers if we can be consistent enough in the plays that we're making.
I mean, even Tiger Woods bogeys every once in a while, right?
Yep.
You got to have those moments. Giants fans, join us on Sunday, November 19th at Hair of the Dog in Manhattan to watch the Giants take on Washington. Enjoy Modelo drink specials, meet a Giants legend, and enter a raffle to win game tickets and more. Visit giants.com/bar network to learn more. 201-939-4513 is the phone number. Let's head to the phone lines, Howard.
All right.
We've got Lucas in New Jersey calling in. Lucas, you're on Big Blue Kickoff Live with Madelyn and Howard.
Hey, Madelyn, Howard, how you both doing today?
I'm doing good.
How are you, Lucas?
I'm doing good. It's the weather's changing, and I get a little grumpy when it's cold, but
who
I'll
doesn't?
manage.
Yep.
Right.
So
and the Giants What could we say about our Giants? We love them. I don't think, we should be firing anybody. I think Joe Shane, we should focus on the good. Joe Shane traded Leo for more than the Redskins traded their young ends. That's huge. I just think that there's one word that I want to emphasize. It's called dog. We need dogs. We need them to start playing like dogs. Like they got nothing to lose, because we don't. And you spoke about it this week. I think it's a good sentiment. Play. You don't have anything to lose, so let's play like it. Let's start rotating young guys in. Let's try to build that chemistry up and really focus on what we were good, because we had so many, pretty good wide receivers. We didn't know who, but now I think we're leaning on Slayton. We're leaning on the young guys, Robinson and Hyde. I think that's the right way to go. We're trying to find our identity. This year could be called the identity year. Last year probably, better suited as the fluke year. And, that's my rant's over. I feel refreshed, and I appreciate what you guys do with the show.
Thanks so much for the call, Lucas. And I appreciate that. I'm happy that we can be here for you to get that off your chest. And I think that's a great point that he made as well, that Lucas made, is that, who's more dangerous than someone with nothing to lose, right? Yeah. You got nothing to lose, so you just throw it all out there. And that's, that's the recipe for trap games. That's a recipe for just moments right there.
Well, yeah, but I think of it like this. If I'm Brian Dable and I'm talking to the guys, my coordinators and everything, I'm saying, hey, look, let's make sure that we have all of our stuff in now.
Right.
Let's go out here and play. We're trying to win the games, definitely, but now we're trying to get better.
Right.
So let's get better as we go. We want to score points. We want to finish drives. We want to stop guys, and that might lead to wins. It might lead to close games, but it's going to lead to us getting better regardless. And at this point, we want to get better and make sure we know what we got as we go into the following season. But we're going to use this time for don't want to call it an extended training camp, and that's not fair. But I want to make sure that we get better at every position we can get better at. I want to get better, and that means we're going to coach guys hard. We're going to expect more out of them. And some people would say, well, if you're not really going, you should play young guys. Okay, that's not fair to the older guys that are playing, because they got incentives and stuff in their contracts too.
Exactly.
Yeah,
and they're professionals. They want to go out and play proud.
Everybody wants to play proud and play right. So I think that you talk to guys, it's time to coach them hard. It's time to get after them a little bit more, and it's time to see progress. Win, lose, or draw, you got to see progress every week, and that's what I would start talking about today. And it's probably what he's been talking about for a few weeks, probably because I'm probably behind the time, because I'm not a head coach. But you want to start seeing progress. You want to see progress. You already saw a lot of progress in your defense. You saw it step back a little bit this past week, and someone asked me, how could they play so bad defensively? I said, if they've been watching tape of the last few weeks with Josh McDaniels' teams, I wouldn't be excited to play against them, because these guys are going to lay down. But they didn't lay down, because they had a different mentality and a different coach.
Well, and it's also defensively. You talk about the Giants. I mean, losing Leonard Williams, as much as, Lucas mentioned that trade, they got a lot for him in return, and especially in comparison to the Commanders' trades of Montez Sweat and Chase Young. But that's a significant difference maker. First of all, he and Dexter Lawrence were, besties. They talked often about that kind of unspoken chemistry they had on that defensive line, always knowing where the other one was, not having to look over that. But also, Leonard played on the same side that Kayvon Thibodeau did. So you got to think that affects, Kayvon's play a little bit too, and the ability to get pressure on the quarterback from that angle.
I think that, but I think more than that is that you lose a player that's a Pro Bowl player.
Right.
He's definitely Pro Bowl or not right there every year. You lose a player that plays 70% of the plays defensively. A player that's given that kind of effort 70% of the time, and the other guys are guys that come in. They're good players, but they're coming in for a spell, which means they're going to get. They're going to split the 30%. The rest of the guys are going to split that time. They're not going to have to play some long, extended period of time in the game. They may have a flash here, a flash there, but Leonard was playing 70% of the plays and giving it his all this whole time, and that's why he was doing it.
Right.
If he could be that easily replaced, he would have been playing 70% of the plays.
Yeah, exactly.
And thus why they got such a haul for him in the trade, because they're like, we're getting a guy that plays 70% of the plays. He's productive. He's disruptive. He can do a lot of different things. This works.
Yeah.
So that's why they got so much for him. Now the other guys that are in there, they're good players. they have to figure out, holy smokes, now we have to figure out how to divvy up 100% of the plays instead of divvying up 30% of the plays. So that's what we saw this week. We saw guys like, okay, well, I'm ready to go. Like, okay, we're still in here. Like that's a lot of plays for them.
But it's that, and it's also like the way one player does this is different than the way another player does that. Neither one necessarily is different, right, wrong, or what have you. But getting used to the way, okay, you got a new person beside you, you got a new person in the mix, and getting used to the way that this person kind of melds in with the group.
It's from a defensive standpoint, like you're trying to set a picket fence, right? You're trying to make sure all your gaps are covered. When Leonard and Dex are playing together, the gaps may start at a kind of at an angle where everybody's going this way. If you're still used to making an angle and one guy's back here and one guy's up here, there's gaps and holes in it.
Right.
And that's not what that's what they were looking at a little bit this week, and they'll address it. They're like, we got to all be together. We got to be, we got to set the line and make it happen, and we'll be able to make more tackles. As the game wore on, they got more of it.
Right.
But in the beginning, it was like, wait a minute. Like, okay, you need to be a little deep. You need to be a little further in the backfield. Like, well, I'm looking both ways. I'm two gap in here. So, like you said, they just play the technique. They're doing the same technique, but they're playing it a little differently.
201-939-4513 is the phone number. Big Blue Kickoff Live on Tuesday, November 7th with Madelyn, Burke, and Howard Cross. Let's go back to the phone lines. Wilson in Roxbury is on the line. Wilson, I'm sure you've got so much joy to spread today. How you doing, my friend?
Hey, listen. Madelyn, you're a funny girl, Madelyn.
Thank you.
Hey, listen, I mean, Howard must think that I'm the most pessimistic Giants fans that there is. But I don't want to be. I mean, I want to be happy like all the other callers that call you about, the 4th round pick and next year's draft. But I'm not going to waste my time in doing that because I call it as I see it. And I love Howard. That's why I like Howard, because he kind of like gets mad at me, but I know he loves me in a weird kind of way.
Yeah, like an ex-wife. So, I got it.
All kidding aside. So, you know Howard, I've been very down on Brian Daboll since last year. But I took the Chiefs last year, and everybody tells me that he's a good head coach. And his record since last year is like 5-15-1, and like some of those losses have been like historically bad. I mean, like NFL record bad losses. But forget about that. And forget about the Jets game that I put on him and the Buffalo game that I put on him. Forget about that too. Just forget about that. I mean, and Sunday, I'm going to give you Sunday, okay? Forget about the injuries, which I feel terrible for Daniel. I feel terrible. But before, I want to ask you something. You were playing a team that fired everybody. I mean, the offensive coordinator looked like a high school senior, for crying out loud. I mean, and you were playing a rookie quarterback that somehow the Giants managed to make him look like Patrick Mahomes. Answer me this truthfully, Howard.
Mm-hmm.
Were they ready to play? I mean, they looked like they were sleepwalking. And then you got one of your better players saying that, well, they don't listen to us. When we say something, they don't listen to us. That, to me, is more damning than everything else. That what McKinney said, you know what it tells me? It's the beginning of the end. That's what really bad teams do. And this is the beginning. This is the beginning of the end.
So for
tell me if I'm wrong.
So for 2 weeks when McKinney was and the guys were like crushing them, right? And doing great stuff defensively.
Mm-hmm.
It was okay. But last week when they just weren't, they expected something and they didn't get it out of the team they were playing. You trade away Leonard Williams, like I said, that makes a big difference in the front.
Okay.
And you get something from a team that you just weren't expecting.
Howard, can I ask you something?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Have you ever been shocked or surprised by something?
Oh, listen. I've been a Giants fan for 45 years.
No, I'm talking about in your own. I'm talking about only in your own life. Have you ever been shocked or surprised?
No. My life was pretty boring. Howard,
that's pretty funny.
I want to ask you something. I want to ask something. It's apples and oranges, but I want to compare something to you. I want to give you Minnesota because I just happened to watch that game and the Red Sox champ.
Mm-hmm.
They were playing a rookie quarterback got hurt, and then they got a guy that basically he came in. I don't think the quarterback knew the offensive coordinator's name, but somehow they made him work.
Mm-hmm.
And now I got to hear excuses that DeVito.
Oh no, we don't. We're not making an excuse.
Come on.
Listen, let me help you out, Wilson, because I like you a lot.
Go ahead,
so
please,
I'm gonna educate you. So you're playing with a kid in Dobbs who's is a rocket engineer and would have been a top draft pick for you. Wouldn't gotten banged up before he left school. Mm-hmm. We're playing with a kid, and no offense to DeVito, he's a nice kid, and I think he's gonna probably be working himself into a decent backup one day. But he came out the practice squad. So what you're doing? Just stop. I can help you with this. You're discrediting everything about sports. If I'm playing as a starter and I'm the tight end, and you bring a guy in off the practice squad to play in my spot, and he doesn't play well, but you expected him to play well, then you don't think much of my abilities when I'm playing. And that's what you're doing. You're disregarding every quarterback in the league right now by saying we can pull any guy off any practice squad and they can play.
No. I was talking about coaching, Howard.
It's not coaching. You pay guys because you pay guys so they can play. The first part of the season, Wilson, you'll agree, every offensive lineman was hurt, right?
Right.
So they had to put together a team to try to figure it out. The moment they put it together, guess who showed up? Saquon. Showed up with his cape and his tights, and he's like, "Man, Superman showed up. We got a chance." And then Daniel's hurt, so now you got Saquon, you got Tyrod. Right. Okay, we got a chance. We won a game. We're starting to look better. People are starting to say it's a quarterback controversy. Tyrod gets hurt.
That was asinine.
Yeah, but I know. Then Tyrod gets hurt. And then Vito goes in the game. Daniel comes back. I'm like, wow. So I can't believe he made it back with the neck. Right. But they're like, he made it back. He blows his knee out.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Can I ask you one last thing? I took a lot of your time already. And I'm gonna with this, right? Last time you tried that push, whatever the hell it is that is called. You got your center hurt. You got like three people hurt.
Yeah.
The Giants don't do it well.
All right, but for some crazy reason, this coaching staff thinks it was a good idea to do that with a guy that just came back from neck surgery. I mean, it's stuff like that. When coaches do that, and then you tell me, "Well, this guy's a good head coach," I want to jump out of my window.
So next year, when the schedule's different and the team is probably have more players,
I want this guy to do good, Howard.
And they do better. I want you to call in every week with the same energy.
Wilson, I can't wait for the day when you call in and you're just so joyful.
Listen. I mean, Brian Dable doesn't need my apologies, man. Okay, but I will say I was wrong about Brian Dable, and I will shut my mouth and I will listen. I apologized to Paulie one time, and then I find out the next day that Jay-Z said the same thing that I said. I said, "Hey, what the hell did I apologize for?"
All right. So, listen, Wilson, appreciate your call.
Thanks so much for the call, Wilson. And, to Wilson's point, too, he's talking about, hey, how do you lose a game to a team that just fired their head coach, fired their offensive coordinator, fired their GM, benched a quarterback? That's one of the most dangerous teams to play, because if you're on that team still, if you're one of the survivors of that, you're looking around saying nobody's job is safe. Everyone's straightening up their spine and putting their best foot forward. I mean, even we talked about this all week last week leading up to that game. Bobby Okereke and Paris Campbell, who came from the Colts last year. Mm-hmm. We all remember what happened with the Colts last year. They brought in Jeff Saturday, who had no head coaching experience.
Zero.
After they fired their head coach and they cleaned house. What'd they do? They won that first game because that change is shaking up the snow globe. They didn't have success after that, but that first game, this was the game that the Raiders had as well. It was, okay, everything got shaken up.
We can put everything into this basket. We can really get after it. And, firings come in at a specific time. You don't fire a team before you play the Cowboys. You don't fire your coaching staff.
Right.
You don't fire your coaching staff before you play the Niners or before you play Baltimore. You fire your coaching staff when, okay, this team is struggling also. So if we're going to make a move, let's make a move right now to give these guys the best chance to win, and maybe that win could spark something in them so they could play better going forward.
Right.
But I think it's strategic.
But I think it's reductive to say, they're playing a team that just did this. How good could that team be? Yes, that's a team that is struggling, but still, that is a dangerous situation, because we've seen this time time and time again across the league.
Yeah, but
teams
that's
that
what-
clean
but-
house, the next game, everyone's like, I'm on my best
Yeah,
behavior.
but they usually do it before and gives you, if we're going to make a move, as they say upstairs, if we're going to make a move, we're going to make it right here because this team is struggling. We're going to try to make it, give these guys a chance to do it during a bye or something to give them extra time to get together and get to know what they're expecting of each other. But it doesn't matter. It happened. I kind of I'm like, man, they got to get ready for a lot of running. What they do, they ran the ball a lot. And so they're going to try to protect that offensive line. So they do everything they can to protect that young quarterback. They did everything they could to protect him. He wasn't phenomenal by any stretch of the imagination, but he was good enough with that run game to make it work.
Absolutely. Giants fans, take your fandom to the next level with a season ticket membership. Stay connected to the club all year round, not just on game days. Memberships are now available for the 2023 season. To learn more about all the exclusive member benefits, visit giants.com/tickets. Limited inventory is still available. 201-939-4513 is the phone number for Big Blue Kickoff Live on a Tuesday afternoon with Madelyn, Burke, and Howard Cross. Phone lines are lighting up, and we've got Vinny from Florida calling in. Vinny, you're on with Madelyn and Howard on Big Blue Kickoff Live.
Vinny.
Hey, Madelyn. Hey, Howard. Hey, before I get into my stuff, I got a quick question for you, Howard.
Sure.
When you were at the beginning of your career, first couple of years, did you go eat dinner a bunch at like the TGIFs and the other sports bars on 17 and 4?
Like
Solo?
on 17, I used to go to, I forget the name of the little bar that was there. I used to go there, had a video game. I used to play it all the time.
I used to see you there, but out of respect for your privacy, I never went up there and introduced. I never went up and said hi. I just waved. Respected your privacy.
I appreciate that. That's very nice. Thank you very much.
Yeah, no problem. Now about the Giants. Following Wilson is always tough. He belongs in the Hall of Shame with Charlie. I like optimism no matter what. So I just want to make a couple of comments. The first comment is I agree with you guys. That was a total trap game. First series, Vegas went down and scored a touchdown, but those who remember, they punted their next two possessions before Danny got hurt.
Yep.
So I think they made the adjustments, and they lost all emotions when Daniel got hurt. But I think they're trending in the right direction. They need another dynamic defensive tackle, and we'll get that next year, hopefully in the draft. And they'll develop like a Dexter Lawrence has developed. But we need to sign Leonard Williams back, and maybe Shane talked to him before he left and said, "Hey, we're going to want you back here next year." I don't know if that's legal, but
I don't know if it's possible.
because he forces a double team on him just about every time, and you got Dexter with a double team, and you got Lawrence Williams with a double team. You get other dynamics in there, like Kayvon Thibodeau goes wild, or those other guys get a little bit more pressure. I have been a proponent of keeping Daniel Jones. I have to say, after this injury, though, I'm starting to question whether he's healthy enough, because besides last year, he's missed at least 3 or 4 games every year, and it's tough to afford your quarterback doing that, and especially when you see these guys come out like a C.J. Stroud, year one, lighten up. You saw Barrow do it, and now, granted, not everyone's doing that. But,
but Joe got hurt a lot.
And Vinny, I'm gonna give you a quick note here too. Daniel Jones has played 60 career games, including this Sunday, and he has been sacked 179 times in 60 career games. Now, for perspective, Andrew Luck. Remember Andrew Luck? He retired early because of how much he was getting hit. He played 86 career games and was sacked 174 times. So I'm just giving you an insight into how much physical impact Daniel Jones has taken. And yes, you've seen quarterbacks like Eli Manning who never missed a game due to injury and whatnot. When you're getting hit that much in that short amount of time, you can't fully blame the guy.
And also,
no, I'm not fully blaming him. I'm just saying it is what it is.
Yeah,
and the other thing is, go ahead, Howard.
I'm saying there are other quarterbacks around the league that you notice that are mobile, that they look good for like a few games, and all of a sudden they're like you got Hurts down in Philly with the knee. You had Josh last year with the Al with the elbow. You had Lamar with the knee that was out for during the playoffs and stuff. So it's a tricky game. That's a new age quarterback.
Right. Well, and that number too. That number is just sacks. That's not including when he's out of the pocket and getting tackled.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he basically, his injuries have been hamstrings and the knee, which were non-contact injuries. And you got to question about the non-contact injuries he's having because that sometimes, it just is a dynamic you can't control.
No, you can't. I still, to this very day, don't understand the non-contact injury and how so many players have it. But I understand the Achilles tear with the older guys.
Sure.
But they're young guys getting Achilles tears now. So I'm not sure what training they're doing today, universally within the league. But there are more non-contact injuries today than I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Didn't happen when there were two-a-days.
No.
And they practice with pads all the time because I think they were more prepared for the contact.
And guys are doing different things in the weight room too, and I think you guys are seeing Jalen Hurts squatting 600 pounds on Instagram. They're like, oh, let me try that. Guys are doing different things in the weight room. Some with the team, some not. And I'm sure that the way guys are training their muscles and balancing that ligaments, it's modifying. I don't know.
I think probably, and I'm not a doctor, and I don't want to, but I tell people this all the time. I'm like, I talk to a lot of older players even older than me, and I always ask them the same question: did you ever get hurt in practice? And
well, some we've seen injuries in practice.
In practice now.
Right.
Yeah, now.
Yeah,
we're talking about then.
Then when they were hitting each other, no, there was nobody injured in practice.
Yeah, because it's like it's like in life, you got to learn how to take a hit.
Yeah, you got to learn how to do it. If you don't learn how to do it, it's hard to do. And that's just not with the Giants. That's just in general.
That's life advice.
Mm-hmm.
Just in my last comment, I'll take off the air. It's a pleasure talking to both of you. I think the way the offense has been playing over the last 2 years, it seemed like toward the end of last year they were starting to open it up. And then they pulled back a little, and I think the pulling back was because Thomas got hurt. But you're seeing Mike Kafka and Brian Daboll run a conservative offense, and I just think that's because they just don't have the confidence in the manpower right now. And we're getting decimated with injuries, but I expected to see a more open offense. And I don't know when we're going to get there, but I want to stick with the folks that we have until they fail us. Like a Shane Lemieux, 3 years straight, you can't keep that. But a Nzudu, you hope comes back. You hope Evan Neal. I like the young guys we have. You just can't play second-year players with injured and expect a good outcome. But I think they're going to be. I'm hoping more than thinking that they're going to be a better view in the next couple of years. Thanks a lot, guys. Love
Thanks so much for the call, Vinny. Really appreciate it.
Well, Vinny's talking about the offensive line. The offensive line started picking up like maybe 4.5 games ago. They started kind of gelling a little bit. They're starting to get a little bit better. With the injury of Daniel, with the neck injury of Daniel, there were certain other players that were getting injured as well. You had Pugh coming in, and he kind of gave a spark to the offensive line and brought some veteran presence that maybe they didn't have, and he's a voice too. He's like a lot of the guys are stoic. They're very quiet, and they're enjoying the game, but they're very, very quiet. When Pugh comes in, he's talking. Let's all go out to dinner. This is dinner night for the offensive line, and all of a sudden the offensive line play picked up, and they've continued to pick up. And I've heard oh my God, the Giants had 8 sacks in the game. And said, well, Daniel fell twice. I think DeVito and Daniel may have run out of bounds once each. So,
yeah, 2 of them were definitely like Strahan on Favre sacks.
Those were like so that's four down right there, and DeVito at the moment he had time. I think there was one actual like straight on where they sent pressure and they got to him, but for the most part he had time. He just kind of like and is trying to get out and figure a way out to get himself some more room would run into a sack. But outside of that, I mean, the line was playing pretty well.
Right. And I think it's also important to note, too, I mean, you look at, significant injuries. Andrew Thomas getting hurt in week 1 was significant for, like Vinny was making the point, you wanted to see more from this offense. That's significant, especially considering, I brought this up on the show many times in training camp. Brian Daboll would always quip, every job, every position is open for competition except for left tackle. That was how important Andrew Thomas was. So him going down week 1 is imperative to the functionality of this offense. And it takes a while.
It
made a big deal. And then, when you've got other guys on the offensive line too, it takes a while for that group to come together. And it's just unfortunate timing the way it did. Giants fans, make sure you go and subscribe to the Giants Huddle podcast. It features long-form interviews with Giants players, coaches, and front office staff, past and present. Plus, hear from the best analysts covering Big Blue and the NFL. Search for Giants Huddle and subscribe on your favorite podcast platform, or simply go to giants.com/podcast. And don't forget, if you're on Apple Podcasts, leave a 5-star positive review for all of our Giants podcasts. We love the feedback. Like, comment, subscribe, all of that good stuff. 201-939-4513 is the phone number here on Big Blue Kickoff Live. As we go back to the phone lines, Mike in Bloomfield. Mike, you're on BBKL with Madelyn, Burke, and Howard Cross. How's it going, Mike?
Hey, guys, thanks. I was on last week for the first time. I'm back this week because I just want to make a comment and then a quick question.
Right.
The comment for me in watching, I mean, not that I'm an expert, I'm certainly not, but football's a physical game. Physicality plays a big role. Parcells was one to always make the comment, you got to win the guy over you. To me, it just looks like the Giants get out physical and they get beat up man on man. A lot of times what I'm seeing, guys are playing with their hands out. Putting that aside, that's just an opinion. I don't see the physicality. When I used to watch Howard and Lawrence Taylor, them guys play, the physicality was enormous. Man, you'd cringe when you watch them hit people. You watch a Giant.
Now that's a $20,000 fine, I believe, or a $15,000 fine.
I know, but Howard,
it's an expensive habit.
The point I'm just trying to make, it doesn't look. Howard, Oakland beat them up. The Raiders beat them up. That you can make excuses about coaching and all this other crap, but they literally got pushed around. That Jacobs, the running back for the Raiders, he was knocking into people, carrying people 3 yards. Where's the physicality? How does he carry 2 people?
Oh, but he's also the league leading rusher. He won the rushing title last year. He's a Bama guy. I don't know how to explain it.
I get that, but hit him low, take him down. You can't see that all game. And the physicality, that's an opinion. They are not physical. They're getting beat up. The people over them are just better. The Raiders were better. They beat them up. And they came out, and you can make all the excuses you want. The question I have for Howard is, I don't understand a positional defense where Martindale says there's nobody has a position. Everybody plays everywhere. It's kind of like a jack of all trades and a master of none. Like everybody, McKinney's remark isn't necessary, but I understand it just a little bit because it can be confusing when you're being moved all over the place all the time. And the Giants seem to get caught a lot of times with 6 DBs, and this team is coming at them with 2 pulling linemen, and these guys are undersized, and they're just getting plowed over. And, so I don't get this. I mean, like 2 down linemen sometimes, and it just, I don't know. Maybe there's some valid to that. I'm not saying that he should have did that publicly. I don't agree with that, but I'm just having a hard time understanding this, moving people everywhere, even on offense. You hear Dable, and I'm a big fan of the coaching staff. I'm not saying this negative, but he's the right guard, but we play him at left guard, left tackle, but he never masters nothing. It's like he's all over the place, and it's like, Joshua Zudu, I feel bad for him, man. He's a left tackle, he's a right tackle, he's a right guard, he's a left guard. He never gets to set his feet and play a position where he can get something done. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, Howard, but I just want your view on never having a position on defense.
Well, this is what I think of that, and this is my honest opinion of it. When I came into the league 1,000 years ago, I played tight end. I was the stationary tight end, played it in college. I had my hand in the dirt. I blocked everybody. I'd run a few routes, and that was it. When I got here, Mark Bavaro and Zeke Moat were here. So I got moved from the stationary tight end to the pulling guy who moved back and forth across the line. I was always the second guy or the third guy that was on the field. And I forget what game, I think it was against the Chargers, Bavaro gets hurt in a series. I got to move up one position, and then Zeke gets hurt. Then I got to move up to the first position. From that time, from being able to play those 3 positions in one game, then I started coming out of the backfield and blocking guys, and coming out of the backfield and running routes, and coming out of the backfield and doing things. And we had different coordinators for the Giants when I played from I think my first 2 years was Bill in the group. The next 2 years was Ray Hanley. The next 3 or 4 years was Dan Reeves, and the next few years was Jimmy Fossil. And Fossil had himself and Sean Payton calling plays, and the plays weren't the same. Mm-hmm. You don't have the same position all the time. And back in the old days, we say you want football players, not athletes. And now the league is more like we want a lot of athletes and not as many football players. So when Wink Martindale calls a defense and there are athletes all over the field, that's what the league is.
Yeah.
And it's pertinent for these guys. And if McKinney, Roll Tide, and I love you to death. But if you are feeling that you don't know something, you got to study more.
Right. Well, and to Mike's point too, the whole jack of all trades, master of none. That quote continues: "Jack of all trades, master of none, though oftentimes better than a master of one." Because if you can do one thing really well, but then you are needed to fill in another spot, and you can't do that. You know, that's not as necessarily as helpful as somebody who can do a lot of things for a team.
You should always be great at something.
Right.
That's how you get in the league, because you're really good or great at something. But you should be able to have the ability to do a lot of other things all around. And that's what I think the greatest example of that is running backs. You hear a lot of times running backs come out of school, and they're like, oh, he's a good running back, but he can't catch. And I'm like, well, did they throw him the ball?
Right.
And you're like, wait, what do you mean did they throw him the ball? Did they throw him the ball? Oh, he's a great linebacker, but he can't cover. Well, did you play against Wisconsin? They're not throwing the ball either. Or Iowa, they're not throwing the ball. Or you got to know what you're looking at. Like, Micah Parsons gets lost and can't get to the ball, can't tackle, gets lost in space, don't know what position. He doesn't really have
great sometimes going back to some of the draft evaluations of some of these players, and you're like, how did this guy fall to there? And then you look at the things that all the experts were saying. Well, he's this
doesn't have a position,
doesn't have the field vision, and
field vision is horrible. I'm like, okay.
You gotta
you can play that dude at cornerback.
Right. What are people doing, and then what they're asked to do, and all those things.
It's a lot of what you're asked to do, and I think that, and it's very, very hard for an offense when they stand up at the line of scrimmage and you look up and there's like two guys with their hands in the dirt, and you're trying to determine which guy's the Mike backer so you can set the protection to the one guy, and then when you set your protection to that guy backs out.
Right.
So you're doing all you can to give them a harder time to pick up who's coming, who's not coming, and how it all works out. It's not the old school defense that you see. And if it was the old school defense, and I don't think very many teams run it like that anymore,
right?
You'll see the Patrick Mahomes of the world like lighten you up and like, okay, we're gonna pitch camp here. This is gonna be fun. Like that's you got to be careful when you do that. You got to be able to get after them. And if it was the old days, and there was a Lawrence Taylor on one side, a Carl Banks on the other side, a Pepper Johnson in the middle, like all four Pro Bowler guys, and then you have Leonard Marshall going to the Pro Bowl, and another guy going to the Pro Bowl, another guy going to the Pro Bowl. Then you can kind of run a standard defense. Mm-hmm. But most teams don't have that many guys that are going to the Pro Bowl all at once, unless they just had an exceptional year and they're going to the Super Bowl or deep in the playoffs.
And like anything, I mean, the game has changed and evolved, and if you're doing the same thing over and over and over again, it makes it easier for the opposing side to prepare for that same thing, because there's only so many things you can do within a certain structure.
Well, you see it on tape.
And you see it on tape, if there's a 4 down and if it's a 4-3 or a 3-4, there's only so many things you can do. Wink Martindale getting creative with it is a competitive advantage, and that's why I don't think there's anything wrong.
There's no way to do it other than that. I like it, more athletes to come in up front that can help him allow that to be more of a potent thing in the back end. It's gonna be fun to watch.
Sprinkle in some spices as we got John Schmelk creeping into the frame over here.
Yeah, I can see.
What's up, Schmelk? How you doing? Yeah. Oh yeah. No, we got a little cameo. Over there. Just want to remind you all, the 2023 NFL schedule is officially out. Single game tickets are on sale now. Don't miss the Giants at MetLife Stadium this season. Visit giants.com/tickets to secure your seat today. 201-939-4513 is the phone number for a Tuesday afternoon Big Blue Kickoff Live with Madelyn, Burke, and Howard Cross. Mm-hmm. Let's go back to the phone lines. Jay in Phoenix is on line 1. Jay, you're on BBKL with Madelyn and Howard.
The weather's nice out there.
I know, right? How sunny is it out there right now?
Right now, there's not a cloud in the sky.
Oh.
It's just blue.
I love that for you.
And Madelyn, you went to school at ASU, right?
I did.
Yeah,
Forks up.
I think I've heard you.
Party.
I've heard you mention that before. But yeah, it's beautiful. It's warm. It's great out here.
It's
God
lovely.
bless.
It's lovely. Never seen a more beautiful sunset than in Arizona. What's on your mind, Jay?
Well, I was calling because I just wanted to get some perspective. You guys are around the team. Howard, you've played obviously for many years, and one of the things that some of the callers have talked about it's getting to the point as you're watching these games and as this season has gone along that I get tired of hearing the historically bad, the historically low passing numbers, the historically number of linemen that are coming in and out of the game, and I mean now we're on our third quarterback and everything like that. It doesn't look competitive. And how hard is it? Because one of the things I have is I think, again, we can talk about what's going to happen with the quarterback and all that stuff in the future. I wish Daniel Jones the best. But is Brian Daboll on the verge of losing this team?
No.
The fans, we had good graces last year with him, and I loved him. And I loved what he was doing. But now I'm concerned that he's going to lose the team if it continues to get – I mean, every loss seems historical.
No, I mean, I think more of it is it's like guys are getting healthy and guys are getting hurt back and forth, trying to find guys to do it. And he's still trying to win no matter what. And sometimes you got to sacrifice everything. And I hate to say it that way, but you have to sacrifice everything to win. And as a fan and as a person watching it, you're like, why in the world are they trying that? Because he's trying to score points. He wants to put touchdowns on the board. He doesn't want to hear week in and week out, why can't you guys score? And he's giving the guys opportunities to score, and he's putting guys in the right position to score. And we were talking about this before the show came on. It's not so much about the plays that are above the X's and O's. You just got to complete the plays that are there sometimes. When you're in the backfield on a guy and you've got him dead to rights, you got to tackle him. You can't dive at him.
Right.
You got to tackle him. When the ball comes to you in the flats and he hits you with it, you got to catch it. And if the guy's wide open in the flat and there's a guy between you and him, you got to pump fake him or change your arm angle so you can throw it around him so you don't have to throw it over the guy and then over the guy on the flat as well. It's all these things that are kind of combined that the team isn't doing. It's even special teams. You gotta be good on special teams the entire time. And and unfortunately for the team, they and the kicker being injured, you got to be able to know how are you hurt? How hurt are you? Can you tell me how hurt you are? And I'm not, all of us have to be protected from ourselves. It's everything, the perfect storm of injuries and everything else have all happened. He's not going to stop trying to win, though. That's the thing that I think that's hard for me watching it. Is like, I know he's trying to win no matter what. In my opinion, I'd be like, okay, I need to get better. And it's not that he's not trying to get better and all that stuff. It's just I need to get better. I will take little victories along the way inside. I know we may not win the game, but I want to see these guys improve and try to get some confidence out of it. He's trying to win. Mm-hmm. That's it. He wants to win the game, and I respect that more than anything else because it's not like my view is giving up. Some people say it would be giving up, but it would be I need to try to figure out a way to try to find some small victories along the way so I can start to show progress. Like, to me, progress. 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, the defense was looking spectacular. Trade a player, some other things, and then, they have a hard moment, but they started to play better to get themselves back into the game. Not into the game, but they start playing better at the end of the game. 4 weeks ago, they were giving up 18 sacks, feels like, and 19 hits a game just about. They've gotten better. Even with swapping and bringing guys in and out, they keep getting better. And then last week, they took another step forward. So it keeps getting better and better. But, winning games and scoring points, he doesn't care about that. He wants them to win. He wants them to score points. He wants it to be, hey, we're in the red zone. We're going to score a touchdown. Right. And that's like the frustrating part. Sorry. That's the frustrating part for him.
What I was going to say, I would never root for the Giants to lose. I mean, that mentality of getting better draft picks and things like that. I may root for other teams to win if the Giants are still going to be bad. So that we can move into a better position. But I guess, as I meet, as I talk with my family and we watch the games and stuff like that, and we're, my brother and my dad and my son, and we're just so frustrated because we're not seeing the, like Howard, you and your generation of players, they were angry. when you would lose. You were not buddies with the guys from the Cowboys, it seemed like. You wanted to destroy the Eagles. And it just feels like it's this buddy league. It's a fashion show coming into the stadium and everything else. It's like, can we focus on football and play good football?
Well,
that's what I think a lot of fans want to see.
Well, I would say, too, to that, Jay, I mean, I'm sure there's things in life that you love and that you're passionate about, but that doesn't detract from the fact that you can have other things that you love and are passionate about, thing one, when in terms of, like, can we just keep it football? But the other thing, too, is, these guys go to college together. They're college teammates. They have these close bonds. And we just see, I think, more of that in this era as well, no?
No.
No?
This is what it is.
I'm wrong.
No, seriously.
That's true.
This is what it is. It's a lot like basketball.
Yeah.
And baseball. You have AAU basketball. You have travel baseball. And these guys play together all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So that kind of carries over, like in the college. Well, okay, what are you going to do in the off season? Where are you going to be? I'm going to be here. You want to work out together? So now everybody works out together. So they may have like little throwing practices that people don't get to see or don't know this happening. It might be like I think all the tight ends run a tight end camp.
Right. There's tight end university.
Tight end
a lot of guys are out in Phoenix where you are, Jay, and training in the offseason.
And there's a lot of guys who are in the pass rush group.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of guys in the offensive line group.
Because iron sharpens iron, not just the iron on your team.
And they're trying to figure out ways because, again, we've talked about this earlier, like every team is doing it, but every team also, they don't have actual physical practice time, so they're trying to go out and steal and get information from anywhere they can, and they spend a lot of time with each other. And now it's just big. And now and also with social media and followers and all these different things, guys aren't as when we played each other, I wouldn't have anything to do with the Eagles. I wouldn't have anything to do with the Cowboys or even Washington back in the day. My college roommate was Derek Thomas. We loved each other. I didn't take his jersey after the game. He didn't take mine. We went back and we talked about, dude, like I thought I was going to punch you in the head during the game. What are you talking about? Like we played against each other, but it's a different mentality. From that day to this day, what we were doing, and a comedian once says like back in the day, you'd hit a guy, he'd fall on the ground, and you stand over and like, what? Now a guy falls on the ground, you take a knee and hold hands. Like it's a different world. So, like, I think sportsmanship and the way we view sportsmanship has kind of changed the way that we watch the game. Because if you see a guy that's a little over the top, you have an opinion about it. And it's not all. And despite if that's who you are, you have to listen to the opinion of the world of who you are. So that's why guys are like that.
Yeah. Yeah, and so that's great insight. And Madelyn, you made a good point too. I get that guys have other interests. I think when the teams are losing. When they're winning, it's like, okay, whatever, no big deal. But when they're losing, it's just like, man, yeah, you just want to know that your team is as focused as completely as possible, and that the coach has got everybody moving in the right direction.
They definitely do.
It's just hard to watch.
Yeah. They definitely do. All right, well, I appreciate the call. I do understand that, but everybody's telling us, and I get it, and it's not an excuse. Like when you don't have all your full complement of players and everything's getting beaten down, then all of a sudden your season's not going the way it's supposed to go, and the opponents aren't getting weaker. They're getting stronger in some cases.
Right.
You're hoping that you're going to get – you've got things circled as fans. Oh, we're going to win this game. We're going to win this game. We're going to win this game. And it doesn't work that way. I looked at last year's schedule. I'm like, man, these guys are in trouble. And they went out and they made the playoffs.
Yeah.
This year, I'm like, I'm not circling any of these games because I don't have any idea what they're going to do from week to week.
Right, and games are not won and lost on paper.
No.
And unfortunately.
I wish they were.
Unfortunately.
I wish they were.
Because they got to go out and play the game.
Absolutely.
And, sometimes, too, I mean, to the point, too, about guys having other interests. I mean, Giants fans out there watch every Giants game and all that, but every once in a while you need to kind of turn on a Netflix show to kind of – and then you can come back to the Giants with that same passion, that same fervor.
No, a fan is short for fanatic, and people are allowed to be fanatics about their sport.
They are.
Scream and yell.
No, but what I'm saying, but turning on a Netflix show does not take away from your level of fandom, is what I'm saying. Well, so, like, when I always get protective when people are saying, how dare, players have interests outside of football or prioritize anything but seeing only football all the time. Sometimes taking a step away helps you come back to it with a clearer picture.
Oh, I got you.
That's what I'm trying to say. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah. Okay.
And not for everyone. Not for everyone. And some people in varying degrees. But
no, I'm not saying that I don't think anybody does football 24/7.
Right. Well, except for Paul Dottino.
Paul Dottino and the coaching staff as they sleep here at night, which I still don't understand.
If you ask Paul Dottino, hey, have you seen this movie? No. If it was not Giants film, he has not seen that movie. But you know what? I respect that. I respect that about him, too. And to each their own. And that's the case. All right. I want to remind you all, too, the Giants' official connected TV streaming app, Giants TV, brings original video content and game highlights on demand and direct to Big Blue fans. Giants TV is free on Apple TV, Roku, and Amazon Fire TV, and the Giants mobile app. We want to thank all of our callers and listeners today for listening to today's episode of Big Blue Kickoff Live on Tuesday, November 7th with Madelyn, Burke, and Howard Cross. BBKL is part of the Giants platforms everywhere and Giants.com/podcast.
Don't forget to go out and vote.
And don't forget to go out and vote. Today is Election Day. If you have not already cast your vote, go do it. It's an important element of these Estados Unidos over here. All right. Well, thanks so much for listening to our show. Like, comment, subscribe. You know the deal. We'll see you next time.